Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of The Conversation. And it is indeed a great privilege. And I must tell you, I'm very, very happy to let you all know about my old friend, my buddy, Jasmine Suri. Hi, welcome, Jasmine.
Hi, Ram. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So just to let you all know why am I really excited about this, because Jasmine and I have been working for a long time together now. She's someone whom I really look up to and admire. And there is a lot that I've learned from her as well. And we happen to be very good friends. However, the kind of work that Jasmine does is phenomenal. So I really requested her to be here today to talk about some of the work that she has been doing of late. She has been in the industry for several decades now. She doesn't look that old, but she has been there for a long, long time. And she happens to be a very seasoned behavioral facilitator and coach. So I'll let Jasmine do the talking now. Hi, Jasmine. Welcome once again to this forum, and great to have you here.
It's my privilege, Ram, and any association with you is always been beautiful. So really look forward to this.
Fantastic. So Jasmine, first things first, you've been in the industry for over a couple of decades now, to say the least.
Yeah.
And you've worked with so many clients, done several kinds of workshops, both in India and abroad. What brought you here? Where did it all start, to be honest with you?
Yeah, it's like a very interesting story, but just to, I started as a voice and accent trainer, Ram, and there was something which touched me deeply when I was doing that, is that really when we wanted to teach the participants how to speak, how to learn an accent, I realized we needed to touch their feeling space. We needed to touch their heart. And that is something which drives change. Knowledge is, yes, of course, required. But I would say, in my experience, it is around 70-30. 70 is ability to touch the heart, and 30% is the knowledge. And that's what got me ticking in this space. And it's been a story ever since.
Excellent. 70-30, 70% is heart, 30% is knowledge. Great way to put it across. So Jasmine, in your workshops, when you work with a set of participants, how do you try and connect with your participants? What is it that you do that enables you to do that? Especially given the fact that we're living in a world where the head often weighs heavier as compared to the heart. So how do you really get that connect?
So, Ram, what I do is I spend the 1.5 hours, any workshop, it could be a campus to corporate or a senior management workshop. I spend the first 1.5 hours just on breaking ice, getting people comfortable, and deeply understanding what is the expectation of each individual in the workshop and why they are here. And once that is achieved, irrespective of what my agenda is, I change the agenda on the spot and go with what's in the class. I never go with what I have planned, because in the end, it's all about the audience.
So if I understand you correctly, what you're touching upon is spontaneity really matters for a facilitator.
Yes.
And you've got to be able to tweak your things, your content, according to what the audience expectations are. Would that be the right way to look at it?
Yes.
All right,
yes,
excellent.
Absolutely.
Now, a lot of times, especially when we're talking about training and development, how do you see the training and development changing or has changed over the years? I mean, you've been doing this for quite some time now. So do you see some substantial changes happening? How do you see the future for this? Any thoughts on that?
So I think, I run this organization called Jasmine's Palladium, and we use play as a modality. So what I feel is, when I started, the tell modality was very large. People used to tell you what to do. There used to be a PowerPoint and a lot of instructions. But I think that has changed over the last 10 years completely for me. Now, nothing needs to be told. Everything has to be experienced and realized through an activity or a game. And I think that's where the power lies. Because imagine, when I don't tell you and you realize, that's when learning remains and stays. And it nobody needs to tell you or, remind you, because it's come from you.
Right, absolutely. And do you see how people view training? Because a lot of times I've heard people saying that, you know what, trainings work, but not to the extent that one would expect them to. So there are mixed reactions that you often get from people. So people think that it's a method for organizations to keep employees engaged, but how much do trainings really bring about a change in one's life is always under the scanner. It's always a question mark. What are your thoughts on that?
So, there's an interesting principle of Stephen Covey called see, do, get in First Things First. And that is the way you see it is the way you do it. And the way you do it is the results you get. Yeah. So, organizations, I worked across many of them. And there are some people who just see it as a tick mark exercise. And that's the way they do it. And that's the result they get. But there are some of them who are so deeply involved and actually partner with you, and that's when magic is created and culture changes of the organization. Yeah. So it's all about the way you see it.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal way of putting things, because you anticipate a result and your actions help you get that result because you think about it in a certain manner.
Yes.
And I completely second your thoughts on that, and I've experienced it firsthand as well. Is there a lot of times when organizations don't really invest emotionally into a workshop? They're basically
Yes.
doing it as a checklist activity, and that does not help you get any return on investment. Now, that's
Yes.
precisely my next question. Organizations are always keen to talk about this. How do you ensure return on training investments? Sometimes I wonder what exactly they refer to, but it's a very abstract concept, to say the least, especially in the behavioral context. How do you see this?
See, measurement is important and is required, but measurement has to happen. There has to be for you to actually measure. You have to first have a pre, that is something done before the workshop, and then you have to have a post. Now, both these are very internally driven. It's not the trainer who can measure. So, unless there's a deep partnership and internal involvement by the organization, unless they outsource the whole thing, which never happens. So, and that's why it always remains, because that requires time, energy, and effort, and huge amount of time, because to do that exercise, it involves, really requires some commitment, and that's why it never stands. But I have done it with certain organizations where they've actually come the entire circle and the results are brilliant. So it depends on how much you want to invest in the space in all forms of energy.
Yeah, true, absolutely true. And I'm sure,
Yes.
because I've been observing you closely as well. With a lot of organizations, you not only train their employees, but you enjoy the personal space of doing
Yeah.
one-on-one coachings with them. And
Yes. Yes.
I remember having conversations with you where you spoke very proudly about the coaching certification that you've done and how that's bringing a positive change in people's life. Give us a glimpse about what this coaching is all about and how do you do it with people?
See, coaching in my mind, it's very close to my heart, and I truly believe that it's the most transformational space because it's one-on-one. It's actually creating a sacred space between two people, and where the other person is in the form, if I may say, of a sakshi or a reflective mirror. And whatever the coachee says, the person just listens without any judgment and bias, and is able to connect not only with words but also with feelings, with emotions, with energy, if I may say. And when there is such a strong connect and there is so much reflection, change is bound to happen. You're playing the role of a listener, you're asking questions from a space of a sakshi. The kind of result which I have seen is miraculous. I have seen people who were unemployed become singers. I have seen ladies who were contemplating whether to have children become mothers. I've seen people rise to senior leadership positions. I've seen organizations change, all in the one-on-one space. And when we have this, this kind of jugalbandi, if I may say, with the classroom and the one-on-one, that's when I see that we can really drive results and make change happen.
Great, absolutely. So I was also keen to understand from you, a lot of times when you have these conversations, people talk about things that they're not comfortable with. Sometimes people don't even want to talk about it to themselves, forget about talking about it to a coach. How do you make sure that people are able to talk things openly, transparently, yet being sensitive to the realities that they are bringing to light?
See, what I have felt in my experience, Ram, is that first is, how is the coach or the facilitator um, comfort with self? You know what I may say? Like, am I comfortable speaking about my life? Am I open? Am I able to share stories about the difficult parts of my life? So first, I need to do that. I need to open the stage saying, see, I did it. Now you can also do it. And that has to come from a truly authentic space. It cannot come from some head space. And that when there is authenticity in the room, it's visible. And when there is visibility, everything just moves. So that kind of trust in, because you're being vulnerable yourself, you're sharing the most difficult stories of your life and you're sharing it with utmost honesty. And that is something the other person immediately connects with. And when that connect happens, automatically it opens up the other space.
Absolutely. And for you to go really deep into the engagement, nothing
Yes.
else works as authenticity. I mean, that's the best makeup
Yes.
you could wear, is that being
Yes.
authentic, telling people about what you felt
Yes.
about the situation, your pain, your
Yes.
suffering. And I think people tend to
Yes.
see that for them to
Yes.
open up. Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Now, Jasmine, over the years, you've also been using this technique, and I'm sure you invest a lot of time and energy in learning new things yourself. And you've been
Yes.
doing this Lego workshop quite
Yes.
successfully. Tell us about Lego, because we look at Lego more of something to play with. How do you use
Yeah.
that in workshops, and what kind of change and experiences have you had with it?
Oh, we've had tremendous results with Lego. So you see, Lego has 4 steps. Okay. So in Lego, the facilitator poses a challenge. Like, say, I'll say, Ramnath, why don't you build a model of where you are in your life today? Where are you in your life today, and what's your current reality, right? And then you will build the model. You'll have these different Lego blocks. You'll just take them and you put them. After you construct the model, you share the story of the model that you've built. Yeah. And then while you're sharing the story, you realize something about yourself which you knew but was not clear. While you were building and sharing, that clarity comes to you. The third is, we ask you questions into the model, you see. And when we really ask you, because we're not asking you personally, we're asking you, so why is this here? Or why is that there? So I'll give you an example, okay? So we were coaching, I was doing this Lego workshop in one company, and this gentleman, he built this Lego model. And whenever he built, he had himself very like a large Lego piece, and his entire team was very small, the small. And somebody in the group asked him, hey, why are you so large? And why are these people so small? And he was a very senior leader. He banged the table and he stood up and he said, do you know, Jasmine, we are 3 brothers married to 3 sisters. And I'm the youngest brother, and my wife is the youngest sister. At home, we are always listening. Don't you think I need to lead over here?
Mhm.
And that's what Lego can do, you see. Everybody saw this person as a very autocratic leader, but they didn't realize that there is a story behind it. Everything has a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it helps people see themselves. It helps the team members see their fellow members. Yes. This is one use of Lego. With another organization, there was a 12 crore deficit in the bottom line. So we built models on how to bridge that deficit.
Mhm.
And in 3 months, they bridged it. And it's a lovely case study on our website on Jasmine's Palladium. And so Lego is, you don't know what to do, you can build and find the answer.
Excellent.
That's the power of Lego.
Lego also fascinates me because you're actually making your thoughts tangible, isn't it? You're actually building something out of scratch. Thoughts really don't have any attire, any dress, any makeup. But the moment you have objects that you can convey your thoughts with, it suddenly fascinates people, but because they're able to reflect on their actions. So I completely second your idea that we are the stories that we tell ultimately. And I think there are stories that we must be ready to listen to others as well. And play is a great playground where you can bring all these stories alive. Excellent. So having spoken about your experience over the years, both with training workshops, coaching, and with experiential learning as well, we often still do situations where learners sometimes aren't able to extract the juice out of a training workshop. So maybe they are there because their bosses have nominated them, or because it's a mandatory thing, or anything like that. Or sometimes there are so many distractions. When I see people walking in the training workshop with a laptop or a mobile phone, it scares the hell out of me. How do you make sure that learners, therefore, are able to take back something concrete with them, which they can put back into practice?
So, Ram, in my opinion, there's one thought I always tell anybody, and I tell myself who works with me as well. There is never a bad audience. It's always a bad facilitator. So in case I have not been able to be effective enough to make them put their phones off and listen to me, I need to do something different. And that is our learning journey. And in my experience, I think that if we are truly involved and if we are connected and we are able to truly take that deep dive into the class, I would say it may take a little longer for people to open up, but everybody will open up. Depends, it's only a matter of time. And we have to reinvent ourselves in this journey to say, what could I have done differently?
Absolutely. That's a very, very powerful statement. There is no bad audience. There is a bad facilitator, right? I mean, that hits really hard to accept that, but I think that's all about ownership, isn't it? At the end of the day, when you're a facilitator, you are in charge of people. And I think sometimes we tend to take ourselves a lot more seriously than we really need to. And that can weigh really heavy on our hearts. And what's important is you take your job seriously, but not take yourself seriously. So I think it goes back to accountability. Well said. So what exactly do you do in terms of preparation when you step into that space? I know you consider that as a very sacred space. So how do you prepare yourself content-wise in terms of your emotions? Because there is a lot going on around us. It's not easy, but when you enter that space, you got to be in charge. You're driving an agenda. You're getting people somewhere. So what kind of preparation do you do?
So Ram, if I may say, I work throughout the year on I work throughout the year on learning, adding value to myself, if I may say. I travel across the country, see this year, what do I need to do to add value to myself? And every year, at least 2 or 3 different new modalities I learn. And when I do this, I really, depending on which workshop I'm doing, I just plug and play. So I seriously never prepare for any workshop. I just think, okay, maybe I can take this from here and that from there, and then put it all together and create something really fantastic. So mine is more like, you have the cooks who cook with a cookbook and the cooks who cook just then and there. So I never have something pre-planned, but internally in my head, in my heart, I know that this is going to be the flow and this is what I propose and this is the modalities, but I'm ready to work with it. It's never structured. I'm not structured.
You carry a lot of flowers with you and you decide how to make the bouquet then and there, right? And
Correct. Exactly.
I don't know if that is a good analogy, but it's somehow, is the way to put it. So
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
me
yeah.
one thing, this whole curiosity, the childlike curiosity and enthusiasm to keep learning. And I've seen facilitators who have this childlike infection when they are learners. They have this zeal to go ahead and keep learning. And then there are a lot many of them as well who feel that they've arrived, is that they've done it all, they've seen it all, and therefore uh, there is nothing much to add to themselves. So how do you keep this whole zeal of learning alive, and how do you decide what to learn when? I think it's a tough question to answer. I found it tough at times, but I want your perspective on this.
So, when I'm learning, I do it just like a child, because I'm never learning to see, never learning from the space of a teacher or a facilitator. I'm learning because I want to see how this will solve my problem, because I have enough problems on my plate. So
Yeah.
I'm learning to see, when I join this workshop, I try to see how this methodology helps me. And when it really helps me and I'm able to come out of something using this, that's when I have something in my hand and say, wow, this is how I did it. Now I can make many others do it.
Yeah.
So it's always about solving my problem. It's never about others. And that's why it's so interesting, because when you know something and solve your problem, and it's almost infectious, because when you see something solves your problem and you're getting something, you think, oh wow, there must be something more, and that takes you on that role.
Yeah. I think, yeah, trying to apply that new knowledge to your own situations. And once you see results, then using that as a template to solve other people's problems or to deal with their
Yes,
situations. I
yes,
think that's
yes,
that's the kind of formula that you want to apply in terms of learning
yes,
anything
yes,
new. Now, I'm sure that there must be a lot of people who talk to you after the workshop and ask
yeah.
you, I want to be a facilitator. What is it that I should do, must do? Uh, what advice do you often give them, if at all you have any advice there? And how do you look at facilitation per se as a profession?
So, I have many people who tell me, I'm going to work for a little while and then I'm going to become a facilitator after a while. I'm going to take things easy, and then I can, chill and do this. And many a times I tell them that this is not a chill job at all. It's a very, very, very difficult job, and it requires you to be physically, mentally, and emotionally very fit. I travel sometimes 20 days in a month. I don't know where I'm waking up and where I'm sleeping sometimes. I spend maybe more than 50% of my time in the air. And to do this, you must have something that drives you from within.
Yeah.
And it's never something that you think it's something, it's a shortcut or it's easy, you see. And second is, you have to be a constant learner, or you will stagnate in this place. There is no way, you will not be able to survive, because you will just die. Here's the way I look at it, because you need to keep reinventing yourself, coming up with newer versions. Yeah. And if somebody has got these two things, there's a fire in your belly, there's learning, love for learning, and lastly, authenticity and vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, yeah, if you can, you should be able to stand, you should be clear, because I have a simple way of looking at it. A facilitator is somebody who includes people, right? To include people, you should have space inside yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're full of yourself, there is no space for somebody else to come. So you have to keep cleaning yourself, and only then can you include others. And if this is something which fits your bill, then you should definitely look at this journey.
Excellent. So enter yourself before every workshop so that you can include
Yeah.
others and their perspectives as well. True. Well said.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
on this note, is there anything else that you like to do apart from the fact that you're such a wonderful facilitator, but in your free time, whatever free time, if at all you do get that, how do you keep yourself energetic? How do you make sure that you keep going with that zest and zeal and that speed? So is there anything that you practice as a routine, or something which helps you bounce back into action every time, because you travel so extensively as well. So that must be really exhausting. So what do you do in your spare time? How do you rejuvenate?
So there are two things which I love doing. One is, which I can't live without, is my yoga practice. It's a very important part of my life, and I very religiously do it, I would say, and that keeps me very rooted and grounded. And the second thing which I love doing is sitting in coffee shops and watching movies. Yeah, so I love watching any kind of movies, any language. I love stories.
Hmm.
So yeah, these are two of the things that I do in my free time.
Right. Wonderful. So, over the last few years, especially right from the middle of the COVID era to now, and even in the future, suddenly we have gone into this virtual world, right? I mean, everything has happened virtual, and people seem to have mixed reactions to that. Some love it, some swear by it, and some say, oh, trainings can't happen virtually. Uh, how was the transition for you, and how do you see this going forward?
So I think when COVID happened and everybody, a lot of people started with this online, how to conduct workshops online and what's going to be the modality. And what I realized is there are a lot of people coming up with how to create content online. And my deep learning in this journey was that I ran the workshop just the way I did in the classroom, and nothing changed for me, and I could just do it even then, except maybe you can't physically run around and do whatever else. But and I that's the time the penny dropped for me, that if you're 100% there and you want to convey a message, the medium really doesn't matter. Of course, yes, the physical has a very big advantage of, where you can touch and, you know do the activities. And but I think a good mix is something which, a healthy mix is something which is very wonderful. A good fruit bowl, I would say. There is classroom, and then we can have the online. At least we've learned how online works, and it's, I think, very powerful in its own space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I may ask,
Yeah.
what inspires you as a facilitator, as a person, as an individual? What do you really look up to, or who do you really look up to?
So I think, in my mind, I have a deep, wish to make a difference, I would say.
Mhm.
It's very intrinsic, that I feel that anybody who attends this workshop, they must have a little, they should go out a little better. They should have a difference. And I think that is a very core driving factor for me. That, and to tell you that we are now with 70 plus clients. We started with one, and all of them are by word of mouth. And this is coming, and there is not any, nobody selling the programs, yeah, or nor am I doing something to sell it, but all the businesses come by word of mouth. And I think that itself is talking about a difference that is happening in somebody's life. So somebody feels touched, and that person tells the other person. And I think this is another way of looking, because business development is happening in the classroom. That is happening when somebody's life is changing. And I think that is, there is no deeper inspiration other than this for me, that I can make a difference.
Yeah, that's a very, very powerful insight, that for a
Yeah.
facilitator, business development is happening in the classroom. I think if
Yes.
budding facilitators just pick up that one line and put that in action, I think it would speak volumes about how you look at things in the future.
Yeah.
Great. So
Yeah.
one final question, because you are a movie buff and I'm sure you also love reading, any movies or books that you'd like to recommend for the viewers?
So again, I never read any recommended books
Mhm.
or good to read books. I always go to a bookshop and touch and feel a book, and and see, I really like. I read 3-4 pages and I say, "Ha, this is me." And then I'd like to pick it up and read. And all the books I have bought are like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can just say that I love reading mythology. Anything to do with mythology. I have most of Devdutt Patnaik's books. And I just love the way he links it to business. And I think it's got a very Earth and India feel. And I feel deeply connected with that space. Yeah. Yes. I think I'd like
Great.
to.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So we can just go on and on and on like this. I'm sure the conversation would never end, but like all good things come to a conclusion, the conversation also must end somewhere. So it was,
Yes.
to say the least, a very, very fascinating conversation, filled with a lot of insights and learning, even for me. I'm sure the viewers would also feel the same way. Thank you once again for sharing your heart with all of us, Jasmine. Really appreciate the kind of facilitator you are and the kind of person you have been. And here's wishing you all the very best for a wonderful future so that you can keep making that positive change in the people that you come in contact with.
Thanks, Ramna. Thank you very much. And really cherish your friendship and buddyship. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.